This video describes how a potentiometer works and a couple situations on how you might use one in the 123D circuit simulator. So here we have a potentiometer, and it's easy to find in the Components Plus window. There it is. And you may have noticed that mine is upside down, and that's okay. It works in any orientation. Let's start the simulation. And you'll see that I have two multimeters hooked up, and they're both set to measure resistance. And a potentiometer is essentially a variable resistor. It has three terminals, terminal 1, terminal 2, and in the middle is called the wiper. Now I have the multimeter set up to measure resistance, so the one on the right is measuring the resistance between terminal 1 and the wiper, and the one on the left is measuring the resistance between terminal 2 and the wiper. And as we turn these, we see that the values are changing. And as I go clockwise like this, the resistance on the left is going down and the right goes up. And conversely, if I turn it counterclockwise, the resistance on the left is going up and the resistance on the right is going down. And you'll see that they always add up to 1K ohm or 1,000 ohms. If we stop the simulation and we click on the potentiometer, we come over and we see, okay, this is potentiometer number 1, and it's set to 1,000 ohms. And that's the same as if I was to delete this and say 1 kilo ohm. So let's start the simulation again. So let's try that again. So we turn this, it's always going to add up to 1,000. If we put it right in the middle, we have 500 and essentially 500. Now let's take a look on the inside of a potentiometer. And here we have what looks like a round loop of resistors, terminal 1, a terminal 2, and a wiper. So if we were to move the potentiometer to roughly that position, we'd see 700 and 300, just like this, 700 and 300. And those values are coming from 100, 200, 300 on the right, and 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700 on the left. It adds up to 1,000. If I was to stop this, delete it, and we'll essentially move the wiper to the center, and we'll start the simulation again, we'll get 500 and 500. And we can replicate that by moving the wiper straight down, 500 and 500. So that's how a potentiometer works on the inside. Let's look at an example. Here we have two resistors, a 9-volt battery, and a multimeter measuring voltage. And the two resistors are the same value. They're both 450 ohms. And we're reading a voltage right off the middle. So this is a voltage divider. And if the resistors are the same, then they're both going to drop the same amount of voltage. So they're both going to drop 4.5 volts. So the multimeter is reading 4.5 volts between here and here. Now we could do the same thing with the potentiometer because it's essentially two resistors. And if we put it straight up, we have two equal resistors, just like on this side. But the beauty of the potentiometer is that we can turn it, and it's as if we're changing the values of the resistors really quickly. And we can choose whatever voltage we want between 0 and 9. Where this comes in really handy is, let's say you're trying to simulate a component that's not in the 123D circuit simulator yet. Let's say, for example, it's an ultrasonic distance finder. And the ultrasonic distance finder has an output pin that outputs an analog voltage. Well, you can hook up a battery to a potentiometer and turn the potentiometer, and it will act as if it's an ultrasonic sensor outputting a voltage. So you would connect the wiper out to an analog read pin on the Arduino. Now let's take a look at the potentiometer used in a breadboard. Here in this circuit, we'll use the potentiometer to vary the amount of current going through a LED. So as we turn the potentiometer, we see that the LED gets brighter and it's getting more current. And if we go past the 20 milliamp mark, the LED bursts. And that's an accurate representation of how an LED works in the real world. They really don't want a lot more than 20 milliamps unless they're high brightness or high current LEDs. So the way we have this set up is the 9-volt battery is connected to the rails of the breadboard. Positive is going into terminal 2. Ground is going into terminal 1. And the output, the wiper, is going through a multimeter that's set to amperage. And it's going through that so that we can see how much current It goes into the positive side, out through the LED, and back into the ground rail and back into the battery. So as we turn this, we can change the brightness of the LED. So there you have it. That's how you use a potentiometer in the 123D circuit simulator. You can find the URL of this example circuit in the description of the video. So go ahead, click on that, and try this for yourself in 123D circuits.